Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hoax Hoganson. Three avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? The Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. Men for the Win is part of the Pull Tab Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at pulltabsports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at PullTabSports. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' opening series against the Baltimore Orioles. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. The Twins opened the 2026 series with a 3-game set against the Baltimore Orioles. They dropped 2 of 3. But Dan, doesn't it feel good to have baseball back in our lives?
It so does, right? Like, there's just something about being able to do the dishes and have a game on, to be able to just I'm doing yard work and I'm listening on my phone. Like, it feels like it's springtime again. Like, it felt really good. And these were very entertaining baseball games, or at least competitive ones.
Yeah, I think that this could have gone either way for all of these games. And I understand people are going to say, you're being too optimistic. This team is terrible. If you thought that they were going to win more than one game in this series, you're crazy. No, I think that there were a lot of solid takeaways here, a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong, Dan, a lot of problems, which we're going to get into. Sure. But these were fun baseball games to watch. I was definitely glued to my screen, especially game 3. And I had the F1 race on at the same time, Dan.
Now, I'm not going to say, though, that I would hashtag this as no place like here. Like, I don't think that that's where my mind would have gone. If you haven't heard, listeners, so the Twins unveiled their new hashtag, and there's a tweet somebody put together, I forget who it is, that lists all of them. And then, like, it's like the one of these things is not like the other. Like, the Twins one is longer, seems to have nothing to do with Minnesota or the Twins. Like, what is going on with this as the official hashtag?
You know, they're trying to rebrand, Dan. You know, $2 beers and really, really pushing the idea that there's no place like Target Field in the summertime in Minnesota, which we know is not true. But, you know, they're going to try their best, Dan, to get us in those stands.
But they play half their games elsewhere. Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, they're still going to be doing that when they're in Baltimore or when they're in Florida or when they're in California. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what, like... Do you remember, like, the Minnesota Twins, get to know them? Like, could we not have brought back the get to know them? Like, it's been 25 years, right? If the Vikings were playing, what was the can you take me higher? Like, can't we? Remember when they were playing that? You don't remember this? Just a couple years ago. I just feel like we have cycled back to around 2000 in so many ways, right? Why can't they bring back the Minnesota Twins get to know them slogan? That's what I want.
You know,
just for the bullpen alone, David, we could do the get to know him, right? Banda, I didn't even know we were saying Anthony Banda's name wrong. It's Banda.
I did not see Creed coming up in the intro of this show, Dan.
I didn't either. It just came to me.
I'm all for it. Love me some Creed. But let's go ahead. Let's jump into this series recap, Dan.
Series recap.
Game 1, low-scoring game. The weather is beautiful, though, Dan. It's a beautiful day. Joe Ryan's on the mound, the California guy that he is. I'm sure he's loving pitching in that weather. And honestly, the moral of this story, Dan, the Twins have a ton of base runners, but they can never capitalize in the early innings, grounding into 3 double plays, which, my goodness, if that doesn't feel like we picked up where we left off last season, I don't know what does.
Yeah, it doesn't show the individual left on base here. But there were a lot of opportunities for sure for the Twins here. Top of the second, one of them, Jeffers singles, Wallner walks, Bell strikes out, Caratini lines out, Lewis is hit by a pitch, but then Brooks Lee strikes out to end the rally. Top of the third, there's a Jeffers double play to end the inning. Top of the fourth, grounded double play and then a fly out. And yet Joe Ryan was fantastic, 5 1/3, 1 hit, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, looking in mid-season Joe Ryan form right there. So that felt good at least. But then came the bottom of the 7th when things went well finally for the Orioles.
Very frustrating. So Funderburk allows a single. Topa comes in and gives up a single to O'Neill. And then Cowser hits a sac fly. Martin's in left field. Martin gets under the ball. He doesn't round it as much as you'd like to see a guy who's going to have to make a throw into the infield, but he makes the play on the ball. The thing that's happening, though, he has no play at home base. There's no play at home. There's nobody running to third base. And so the throw has to be to second base in order to prevent O'Neill from advancing to second. But Martin, Hogs' patented dumb comes into play here, where it's not going to show up on the score sheet.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
But Martin throws to third base, allows O'Neill to advance, and then O'Neill's going to score then on a Blaze Alexander single, which puts Baltimore up 2-0, which is really the winning run of the game, Dan. Very frustrating.
Yeah, the Twins do get a run in the top of the eighth, which again could have been the tying run if that had gone better. Buxton hits a triple actually into the left field corner. That's the kind of triple that he can hit. And a sac fly by Keyshaw on a ball that probably nobody else in baseball, at least on the Twins team, is probably going to score on. It's just one of those where the left fielder just kept coming in and in and in and in. You're almost like, I don't know that you want to send Buck. I'm glad they did. So there you go. The Twins get on the board, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, so Twins actually go 3 out of 4 for ABS challenges. Laz Diaz is behind the plate. He wasn't good, but the ABS definitely helped prevent his ridiculous calls from standing, which was this new system, Dan. I'm amazed how quickly I've sort of gotten in it. And okay, there's things that you scream at the screen sometimes when you're watching the game and you think like, oh yeah, that makes sense to scream. I find myself, Dan, just screaming, tap on that, tap on that, tap on that. I'm just absolutely screaming this. And I'm like, things I've never yelled in a baseball game during my life, I find myself constantly screaming at the screen now, Dan.
Yeah, this is going to come up more, I think, especially when we get to game 3, because it was crucial there. The Twins, the bullpen gives up both of the runs here in 2 2/3 innings. The Orioles, Trevor Rogers was great. 7 innings, 3 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. And while the Twins do get the 1 run off of Wells, Helsley comes in and strikes out 3 guys in the 9th to end that one.
Yeah, so we do need to note also some MLB history was on the line because Tyler O'Neill had hit a home run in the opening game for the last 6 years. And so this is the first time in 7 years that he had a baseball game on opening day in which he played where he didn't hit a home run. Where if you do that 6 years in a row, do you not just come to sort of expect it? Like you're like, oh man, I did this the last 6 years. Why wouldn't I do it the 7th time?
It certainly speaks to the guy's confidence in those days too. That's a streak that has to come to an end, but that is an impressive statistic for sure. He came up big, I should say, in game 3 though, with a home run, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah, so let's go on to game 2 then. So Twins win this one, thankfully. They win 4-1. A very consistent baseball game, I'd say. Bottom of the first, this is where things, if you're a Twins fan, you were getting a little bit nervous.
Looks bad.
You got Taj Bradley on the mound, and we're all really hyped about Taj Bradley. He's a really young guy who has actually quite a bit of MLB experience, but the Twins are hoping to unlock something that his previous organization could not. So he gets 2 quick outs, but then he loads the bases, but he escapes, Dan. No runs allowed here. The Orioles get their 1 run in the bottom of the second on a Jackson RBI single, followed by a Colton Cowser double. But my goodness, Taj Bradley, Dan, he goes 4 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts though, Dan. I mean, that's not nothing there.
No, and I'm maddened that he wasn't the one who got the win here. Anthony Banda comes in and gets it for his couple outs that he gets in the 5th inning. But it's good for the Twins, right? Top of the 4th, Byron Buxton forces the team to score a run after legging out an infield single. Advances to second after tagging up on a deep fly out to center field. I love when players do that. And then advances to third on an overthrow. So then he scores on a sac fly. That's the kind of run that Byron Buxton can help a team produce. Top of the 5th, the Larnach singles. Then Royce Lewis hits a bomb to left field. Bomb, though, in the sense that it barely fell into the place that it could still count as a home run in left field at this weird outfield at Camden Yards.
So I think had they not moved the seats back as they have, Dan, that would have been a bomb. I think we would have seen it as a bomb, but it's just because the seats were so much further back, it didn't seem like it went as far as it would have in seasons past.
I can see that. Bottom of the 6th, Funderburk enters, gets a couple quick outs, then gives up back-to-back singles. So Orsi comes in, walks Ward to load the bases, and gets Gunnar Henderson to fly out. So a nice jam escape there. And then top of the 7th, Royce Lewis with a walk, a steal of second. We talked off air. You really liked this at bat from Royce Lewis to earn the walk. He ends up scoring on a Cody Clemens single, so it's 4-1. or Z, I should say, or Z, Topa, Sands. Can you play the snap, crackle, pop, please, for me?
I think so. I got to find it here. This bullpen, I should put that sounder all the way at the top.
I'm gonna play that every day. Bradley again, 4 1/3, 9 Ks. Bullpen 4 2/3, 7 Ks. So some respectful. Now it's early in the year, and the pitchers always seem to have an advantage on the hitters early on. But 16 strikeouts in a game—that's not nothing.
No, not at all. And I just think if the bullpen doesn't allow an earned run, Dan, we need to celebrate that as often as possible, because I don't know how often we're going to be able to say that this season.
Well, Game 3 is certainly, as we like to say, if you're going to watch one game again, this is probably the one to watch from an entertainment standpoint. The Twins, they lose this 8-6, but they did start the scoring in a big way in the top of the second. They loaded the bases with nobody outs. Larnach hits an RBI single. Royce then strikes out, but then they get a double by Tristan Gray that scores 3, but only 2 of them are actually Gray RBIs.
Well, and then Gray gets thrown out because... And again, I don't know how much of this was Gray's fault, actually. He thought that another run was coming home, so he was trying to advance to third. But by the time that was all sorted, Gray got thrown out. You got to give the guy credit, not a guy we're expecting a lot from, and he produced majorly in this game.
For sure. A couple of base running blunders we'll come back to in the top of the fourth and top of the fifth by Bell and then by Buxton. Denies the Twins some chances. And then I want to talk about the bottom of the fourth a bit later when O'Neill does hit that home run, a 3-run shot to make it 4-3. Orioles take the lead in the sixth when Dylan Beavers doubles off Mick Abel, who had come in the fifth. We will also talk about this because this is fascinating that he's coming in after Ober. Top of the seventh, Lewis, though, ties it with a solo shot, so it's 5-5. Then I was waiting for a moment by your guy, Pete Alonso, and it happened here in the bottom of the seventh, David. He singles in a run, so it's 6-5 Orioles. Then Rushman and Mayo follow with an RBI each. So it's 8-5, and I was starting to think maybe I'm going to turn this one off.
It got exciting. We're going to talk about the top eighth a little bit later here. The Pete Alonso at bat, too, there was a challenge that Pete Alonso challenged that extended the at bat. And then had the Twins had a challenge at that point, I think they would have challenged an earlier call in that at bat that would have struck Alonso out. So it's so weird because now we're playing these head games. We always think oh, if that call had been right, or if that call had been right. But now we're not saying, oh, if that call had been right. We're saying, oh, if the Twins only had a challenge left earlier in that at bat, it would have been very different. And so the ABS stuff, Dan, I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around exactly how I feel about it.
Well, and then I think we're going to talk about the challenges in one of the segments there, too. But there were 10 in this game, just 3 of them confirmed. So 7 overturned. And then Shelton gets tossed in the top of the ninth here. Do you want to save that, or do you want to talk about that now, too? Because I was curious about your thoughts on his gesticulation and how well he had in rhythm, his finger pointing, and his, dare we say, foul mouth, Derek Shelton. There were a lot of words there that I don't think we could say on radio.
No, those were some dirty words, certainly. This is what I'll say. He definitely got angry better than Rocco ever has.
Sure.
The thing that was funny about this is he got angry over something he really shouldn't have gotten angry out. It was confusing because basically what had happened, Bell walked to first, but then there was a challenge that overturned that walk and turned it into a strikeout. The issue was the timing. Basically, from Shelton's perspective, he's like, my goodness, they waited like a minute and a half before they challenged this call. Well, actually, Hensley, the closer for the Orioles, he had tried to challenge it right away, but the umps didn't see it because pitchers aren't challenging. They're just not. And to be honest, this was a pretty bold challenge, too. This was a pretty close pitch, especially from the pitcher's perspective, which is never going to be 100% because they're moving on their follow-through, so they're not often seeing exactly where the ball ends up. But, so we're all watching the catcher. The catcher didn't signal, so all the Twins fans are rejoicing. But then you see on the replay that no, the pitcher did in fact tap his head. So I understand that from Shelton's perspective, he's like, they didn't challenge that fast enough. But in actuality, they did. It's just Shelton doesn't have instant replay right in front of him to show him that. So I appreciate him trying to fire up the guys and him getting in there and being really active really early in the season. At the same time, maybe he even knew that he was wrong and he was just trying to fire up the guys. But yeah, maybe next time, make sure you're getting thrown out with just cause.
Well, you were throwing that around some percentages there, David. And I got another one for you. 75% of people are walking around out there dehydrated, folks. And that's not a good thing. Dehydration can leave you feeling irritable, give you brain fog, feeling low energy, especially in this heat. Well, We've discovered a new hydration hero, and their name is Drip Drop. Drip Drop was invented more than a decade ago by Dr. Dolan during life-saving humanitarian missions across the globe. He created Drip Drop for fast hydration where IVs weren't possible. And Drip Drop is a next-level breakthrough in hydration, backed by 6 decades of science, designed for both speed and taste, and to deliver the fastest possible hydration. Drip Drop is like a secret weapon. Over 90% of all professional sports teams across the major sports use it, including the Vikings, the Wild, the Wolves, and the Twins. It's also used by the military, including Army Rangers and Navy SEALs. There's a reason the best choose it. It's a superior product. Simply put, Drip Drop works faster and tastes better. Head to Amazon or dripdrop.com and order some Drip Drop. Mix it with water and experience for yourself the fastest way to hydrate.
Touch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
Thank you. You
I gotta
mocked.
give it to you, Dan.
I heard a little bit of mockery on the season preview when I stuck with my man, Royce Lewis, but he came through for me here, David, to give me the early victory, 9 points he scored for me, which gets me the bonus. Listeners had picked Buxton, who had 4. Hogs picked Keyshaw, who had 3. You picked Wallner with -1. Before I gloat a bit more, can you kind of tell listeners how this breaks down and how we get these point totals?
Yeah, so each show, we're going to choose who we think is going to perform best in the next series. Listeners always get to pick first. If you want to pick for Puckett's Picks as a listener, simply subscribe to our Patreon, $1 a month, and you'll be reached out to. You'll get to make the pick. Very exciting stuff. Then it goes in reverse order, basically on highest to lowest scores from the previous series. Now, the way the scoring actually works, you get 1 point per base, 1 point per RBI, 1 point per stolen base, but then you lose points for strikeouts. You lose 2 points for grounding into a double play, and you lose a point for errors. And then for point totals for how we actually keep track of who's winning, if you win, you get a point. If you win and the player who you picked also scored the highest on the team overall, then you get a 1.5. So it's a little bit of a bonus there. Again, if you want to take part in that, it's really kind of a fun tradition now we've done for years. And what a great start for Dan's guy, Royce Lewis.
I'll take it. So I get the win there, David. Very excited about it. But I have more to say about Royce here if we can move forward to our next segment.
Beast versus Bench.
Losing fun? Is losing fun.
Royce is my beast. He had 2 home runs in this series, lots of swagger. The game 2-1 was important because it established the Twins' lead, obviously. And then in game 3, he came back and then was able to tie the game. This is the Royce that they need. I do wonder at some point, what does he have to do to move up in the lineup, do you think? Because I don't mind him being the bottom lineup, but if he's going to hit a couple home runs in a series, you kind of want those maybe from your 6th guy or something like that, maybe your 5th.
I think by the 3rd or 4th series, if he continues to hit well, I think he's going to make his way up that lineup pretty rapidly. We're going to talk a little bit more about Royce in the next segment here with Derek's sort of treatment of Royce. But I'm going to talk about my beast, Dan, and it's got to be Joe Ryan. But we have to talk about this bullpen, Dan. That again, this thing is strung together with twine and duct tape, but they held it down. And none of these games, because if you look at game 3, even though they lost 8-6, Ober-Abel is not technically a bullpen arm, right? Like he's in the rotation, but because of the way the off days work out and because you don't want to push back a Joe Ryan start, like you need those as often as you can get them. Like he came in as a true piggyback, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I just think that this bullpen, they did what they needed to do to keep the games competitive. And so they deserve a shout out here, Dan, as a beast, most certainly.
Now, it's interesting because you might ask, Dan, who's on your bench? I don't normally like to do this, but I'm going to double dip. I'm going to put Royce Lewis also on my bench because he left 7 guys on base in game 3 alone. Twice he struck out with the bases loaded. And there's only one thing that's worse that you can do in the bases loaded, David. And you know what that is?
Oh, I'm waiting in suspense.
Ground into a double play. So at least he didn't do that.
Sorry.
That would be worse. But Royce, your big hit, Royce, you're the guy with, 8, 9 grand slams in his career already. I mean, like this was the moment. And if ever there was a moment for Royce to really step up, it was in game 3. He was on a couple pitches. You could tell there was a couple he fouled off that he kind of sent straight back that could have, that's always I love those moments because when they're followed by like the big slam, but that's kind of all I've done. This is a little tongue in cheek, slightly, but like with what's the line from Spider-Man, right? With great ability,
saying it like that. Okay, Folks, if you're just tuning in, it's our first episode of the season, actually following a season recap. Dan says some words wrong just to annoy me, and this is one of those times. Okay, anyway, you say the line
With
from however
great
you say the actual
ability
superheroes.
comes great responsibility. That's not
with
right.
great responsibility.
Power. With great power comes great responsibility. Sorry.
You didn't even get the. If you're going to say the guy's name
Well,
wrong, at least get the quote right, Dan.
With great power comes great responsibility, and that's how I feel about Royce in this series.
Okay, so we have to use both sounders for him. Then it's very confusing. So for the Beast,
He's the one.
and then for the bench.
You are the chosen one.
That's how I feel.
So my bench is a guy who I also picked for Puckett's picks.
Yes, but a very cute moose. Make all the boy moose go. Wah!
The thing is, there weren't that many guys to choose from. I was hesitant to pick Ober-Abel, although that would have been a reasonable choice also. But Matt Wallner also walked a ton in this series. But I think he went 1 for 10 with like 4 or 5 walks. So that's great that he's seeing the ball well. But my goodness, Dan, there were so many opportunities for him as well to really help the team win a couple of these games. And so I have to give it to Wallner. To be fair, again, there's lots of good options here, but there was nobody who I thought, oh my goodness, that guy absolutely deserves to be the bench.
No, and it's interesting because Wallner is getting, they noted this on the radio broadcast today, I think, too. He's getting the treatment, the Max Kepler treatment, where, like, he's out there against lefties now. I mean, they're invested in Matt Wallner, and they're saying, you are a professional hitter that we need to be able to hit against lefties and righties. And it makes sense because if you've got Larnach and Wallner playing outfield on this team, one of them has to be able to hit lefties. So I guess he's the guy. I do wonder how long he stays in that, that heart of the order spot with that, though. I don't know. I want big things out of Matt Wallner. We both picked him, I believe, to lead this team in home runs. And so at some point, if the Twins are going to have a great season or even a decent season, they're going to need a lot from Matt Wallner.
Certainly.
You ever seen Buck with his pants down?
No.
Derek's debrief.
So this is our segment, folks, where we look at the manager's decision-making. This is the first Derek's debrief. It's all been this is Rocco's rewind for a long time. We went through many drafts to come up with the name for Derek's what or Shelton's something. And this is what we got to compliment. Brother Dan came through once again with the segment title. And then Corey Provis and Glenn Perkins gave us this gift of a conversation. So the sounder goes with the conversation that they had a little bit earlier, folks, if you want to be filled in on the context of that sounder. Anyway, how about you go first after all of that, David?
So we just talked about Royce Lewis a ton, and this is what I don't understand. Game 1, top 9. The game's on the line. This is likely the last at bat. And Derek Shelton, who supposedly understands Royce Lewis's psyche, like he went down and he met with him, he explained to him how important he is to the team, and then he starts game 1 batting 8th. Very confusing. We've already talked about a spot in the order. It's a little bit confusing if Royce is really supposed to be the guy. But then, Dan, Royce Lewis is known for stepping up in the big moments, the Michael Jordan of the Twins, at least in one series in the postseason. Whatever. So you have an opportunity here for Royce to come to the plate in the biggest moment of the season thus far, because it's game 1. There haven't been that many big moments yet. But you decide to pinch hit for him and have Larnach come in, and Larnach's at bat was absolute trash. That was absolutely ridiculous. Balls in the dirt all over the place, and Larnach's like, that seemed like I should swing. The guy was playing too much offseason golf, which we heard Josh Bell, I guess, didn't play golf all offseason because he didn't want to screw up his swing from the right side of the plate.
I love that. I like Josh Bell even more. I didn't know that factoid.
Yes. Well, anyway, okay. So then in game 3, you pinch hit for Larnach, the guy who you pinch hit for, and you pinch hit Martin in this instance. And again, I understand you're playing matchups, right? I understand that's what you value here. But my goodness, at some point, we're going to hammer on this again and again and again and again. Let a guy hit. Just let a guy hit. I'm sorry. I would rather have Trevor Larnach, who had a good day so far. He was 2 for 2. Like, let him hit as opposed to Austin Martin, who's clearly hasn't quite gotten his timing back after that concussion.
But you underestimate the power of Rocco, right? Because if there's anything Rocco liked to do,
hang on a minute, we could use a pinch,
is shuffle the deck, right? He's like a nervous gambler, right? Who just wants to, he's got to have something in his hands, and he's like, I'm just going to shuffle these cards. And that's maybe how Derek feels about lineups. Now, I got to say, though, The piggyback that happened in Game 3, David, this is not over-managing. I love this, right? Grammatically first, because what's more fun than saying the Ober-Abel piggyback? I mean, it's like a snack food or something. Like, this is fantastic. So I was really excited that when I saw that this was happening. It's brilliant because of the off days, right? And so it allows Abel to get stretched out, one might say. And then all they had to use was Banda after that. Did I say that right? It's Banda, not Banda, Banda. Anyway, we'll get there. But that was really cool. So I appreciate that Derek has obviously listened to the podcast before and thought, darn it. They even called it the piggyback. Dan Gladden did. So I was tickled to see this happen.
Yes. We should have trademarked some of this, Dan. Absolutely, we should trademark. But let's go ahead and push forward here. Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
Yeah. So this segment, we basically talk about what was sort of the defining moment of the series, or a particularly big moment that we felt gave a good feel for the series. And so, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and have you start us off. We're actually both looking at Game 3.
Well, so I was a little annoyed at this point at Dan Gladden because I'm listening to the game, I'm driving home, and I didn't even know Tyler O'Neill hit a home run, right? The way that Dan Gladden talked about this, and I know that it's the Orioles, right? And I get that he's not going to get super excited, but he was like, oh, there's a fly ball to left, and there you go. The Orioles are on the board. And I was like, well, okay. And then the crowd noise wasn't balanced well in the radio. And so, like, normally what I rely on to know if the road or the non-twin, if the Twins are on the road and the home team does something good, I listen to the crowd right in the background. I guess it's the same way the Twins if they're at home too. So it wasn't balanced. So it just kind of sounded like people had just gotten hot dogs and were sitting down, and like it was normal baseball sounds is all that was mixed. So I didn't quite catch the levity or the gravity of the moment here, that it was now suddenly a 4-3 game, and that changed the whole tone of that, right? Because the Twins are up 4-0. And then they've had these chances where they've kind of wasted base runners, or kind of in the innings around. And you're thinking, gosh, if the Twins are the ones that score the next 3 runs, and I know that this, this happens all the time. But to me, that was like, uh-oh, now, there's some doubt creeping in for Bailey Ober. And it just felt like after that point, it felt like, uh-oh, the Twins are in trouble.
Certainly. I am going to stick with Game 3, and all of those base runners you talked about is sort of the takeaway here for me. Game 3, top 8, Twins load the bases with no outs, and they only score 1. And it's really frustrating. Lewis strikes out, Gray hits an RBI single, and then Cody Clemens and Byron Buxton both strike out as well. And those at bats, first of all, how crazy would it have been had the Twins come back and won this game? Like, I was, like you, I was like, ugh, okay, they kind of lost their opportunity here. Abel struggled a little bit, obviously, so the Twins lost this one. And then all of a sudden, you kind of perked up all of a sudden in the top of the 8th with the bases loaded and nobody out. And it just felt too many times the Twins failed to capitalize. Game 1, they went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Game 2, they went 1 for 1. So I guess they're batting 1,000 in runners in scoring position in Game 2. But then Game 3, they go 4 for 13. But the 4 that they got were the ones that were the least valuable 4 to get for the most part, outside of Gray's weird double base running blunder thing that cleared the bases. But it's just one of those things where there were too many missed opportunities, and it felt way too much like last year. And I'm hoping they can correct that and do a little bit more situational hitting to ensure that we're at least putting the ball in play here, Dan.
Agreed. Well, that's going to come up here a little bit more in Mauer's Musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's Musings.
So, yeah, how about we start with yours here, David? And we should say, too, that this is a segment where we basically ask a question based on what we just saw. We're kind of looking forward. There's a lot to look forward to in this season. So we're asking a question to kind of be like, what are we wondering, basically, at the end of the series?
So all we heard about, Dan, in the offseason after they signed Derek Shelton was that he's way more strict than Rocco, and he's way more focused on the fundamentals. And the team is taking more fielding practice before the games and whatnot. Well, you had base running mistakes that likely cost you runs in this series. And Martin's throw in Game 1 to the wrong bag lost that one for you in effect. And so I want to know, is he going to tell the team that, hey, we messed up on a lot of these fundamentals that we were supposed to really hammer home with me as the new manager? So you can't keep playing this game where you say he's so strict and everything unless you actually have some words behind it. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to create action or not, right? Like, I hope the players play better in the field and make better decisions. But it's one of those things where we look at the poll ads and we're really happy with the language choices that they're using as far as they're wanting to be aggressive and win games, but they've taken no action. And I guess my question is with Shelton, is it going to be the exact reverse where we may not hear the language he's saying, but we're going to actually see action on the field? I want to see both. I want to see Shelton I want to see Shelton sort of call out these mistakes that were made. And then also I want Shelton to make them not happen again.
I think that's the ultimate thing is we don't want them to happen, right? So how is he going to react after this series, right? How do the conversations go with guys this week? Even Buxton for overrunning second base in a situation there and getting him. I mean, like nobody should be above reproach. And I'm sure that Buxton would say the same thing, right? I'm sure that he's beating himself up too, but I'm very curious, how do those conversations happen? Because they have to happen. You have to make smarter choices with the baseball. I mean, how many games come down? I bet 25 games in a team's year, if not more, come down to one thing, one mental error in a game. And I think we could point to a few of them already in this series.
No question. Well, what do you have for your musing, Dan?
All right. So after games 1 and 2, especially, the Twins offense wasn't doing a lot. The pitching was fine, right? And then we saw game 3 felt like, you're going to have games like this. First of all, exciting baseball game, but obviously the pitching was an issue really for both teams. Now, let's assume the Twins have some pitching. Let's assume that this is kind of the worst we're going to see from Bailey Ober and Mick Abel, right? And we haven't seen SWR yet, so we're waiting for one more start. But I am going to assume they have some pitching. I think the bullpen seems to be at least functional right now. If Wally Jenkins comes up and plays Rookie of the Year level play, which I actually don't say that like as hyperbole. I mean, he's a top 10, prospect in all of baseball. If he comes up and plays Rookie of the Year, and more than like Marty Cordova Rookie of the Year status, but like real Rookie of the Year status, does that give you, what does that mean to you if he does? And what does that mean for your outlook on the team?
I think that'd be a great thing. I think it would make the team more fun to watch. I just think that until this bullpen has any sort of sustained success, Dan, I'm going to be real hesitant to say blanket statement, the Twins have some pitching. I don't know that one guy coming up and producing some really crazy numbers is really going to be the boost that the team needs unless the bullpen figures it out. Now, again, they were not a liability in these outings at all. So that's great. I hope that continues. Dan, baseball is a game of consistency, and I just don't know that we can put that much faith in this bullpen to be that consistent. I don't know how many games I'm going to need to see them perform well for me to come back on that. But my goodness, one series certainly isn't enough, Dan.
All right, well, you talk about consistency. We're going to have to talk about that in the series grades here, so let's move forward to that.
Series grades.
Well, Dan, I always traditionally go first because, Dan, I can't wait to see what you'll unveil for us here, Dan, in this season as far as your rubric that you use for grading. For those of you listening who don't know, Dan is an English teacher by trade, and so he has all the different ways that he goes about grading, and each year he comes up with a new fascinating rubric depending on the makeup of the roster. I'm more of a gut check guy, and Dan is more of I would argue, a gut check with far more steps. Is basically how Dan does it. But, so I'm going to give it a C- here. You have to say that this was entertaining baseball, and truly none of those games were blowouts. Like, the Twins have a chance to win all 3 of those baseball games, and the bullpen, again, was an absolute surprise. So I guess I'm going to go with a C-. I toyed with even giving them a C here, Dan, because they opened on the road against a Orioles team that nobody knows how good they're going to be this season.
Totally.
So, yeah, I'm going to go with a C-. What do you have there, Dan?
All right, so I have a system. I have a new system. So I have 5 categories, and they're each out of 10 this year. Because one thing I felt like last year is that, a 3 out of 5 is very different from a 4 out of 5. And I didn't want to have to use half points if I could avoid it. So I just kind of doubled. You'll see. So I have 5 categories. 3 of them are about the lineup. So there's top, middle, and bottom, right? So I'm looking at the top 3 spots in the lineup, the middle 3, and then the bottom 3, and the players they're in. And that will encompass all of their play, right? So that's in the field, that's on the base paths, whatever. And then I have just starting pitching and bullpen. So simple cut. And I feel like that could be like half the innings, right? Split right there based on how we saw this series. All right. Top here. I gave him a 7 out of 10. I thought what I'm looking for in the top of the lineup is guys to get on base. And that's really the main thing. And to play, these are your best players, right? So they should be consistent. I thought a 7 out of 10. I thought Buxton was all right. I didn't see, quite enough maybe out of that leadoff spot that I would have liked. First of all, when Cody Clemens is leading off, I have a lot of questions. But there he was. Middle, I gave him a 7 out of 10 as well, because those are the guys you want bashing in runs, right? And we've got, 1 RBI from Bell, none from any of those guys, ironically, in the third game. So, and a little bit more perhaps. Well, there wasn't even anything. Wallner got on base, right, in game 1. So I guess there was that. And then the bottom, though, I thought played pretty well, right? We saw Royce Lewis. As long as he's in the bottom, he's going to get the grade for the bottom. A couple home runs out of the 8 spot. Tristan Gray coming through with more offense than we might see from Brooks Lee all year. So there was that. And then the starting pitching, 8 out of 10. I even gave the bullpen a 9 out of 10 because I'm counting Abel as a starter here. And I thought the first 2 starters, Joe Ryan and Taj, were fine. But obviously some issues there with Bailey. So you add all that up, it's an 82 out of 100, which is a B-. Well, sorry, it's a 41 out of 50, but I have to multiply it by 2 to get to the percentage. There we go.
Wonderful.
It's going to be shorter next year. I mean, it'll be shorter going forward, right? I mean, like, I won't have to explain it all quite in such granular detail.
I love it, Dan. I do.
Thank
it's
you.
very helpful. It's a great rubric to go off of here. Well, Dan, you have a new rubric. And when you get injured and you're trying to work your way back and all you want to do is feel brand new again. You don't want to feel run down. Dan, we have a brand new sponsor, and it's a company that's looking to revolutionize the CBD industry. So CBD often gets grouped with THC, which has given it its stigma. So people understand, because I had to look into this too. We don't promote drugs or alcohol on this show. And what this is it's basically the non-druggy part of drugs, for lack of a better term. But so Cascade CBX Sport, they put time and money to achieve this NSF certification for sport. What that means then is that Cascade CBX Sports is free of over 300 banned substances. So whether you're a weekend warrior or a professional athlete, you can have peace of mind choosing using completely clean products to manage pain and reduce inflammation. Check them out at CascadeCBXSport.com and trust the Shield to stay on the field.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
Well, Dan, the Cubs extend Pete Crow Armstrong 6 years, $115 million. No options. I guess there's some weird buyout options, but no player option, team option, mutual option to extend. But my goodness, that guy looks like a player, and $115 million doesn't seem insane, right? It's not Juan Soto. I mean, granted, he's not as good as Juan Soto, but you know what I'm saying.
No, that's a good deal, I think, for the Cubs there, right? It's kind of like a Buxton-esque deal. It's a little more than Buxton was making, but that looks good. So Ohtani's World Baseball Classic jersey he was wearing when he hit a grand slam against Chinese Taipei sold at auction for $1.5 million.
Yeah, but he just let it ride on black. So
yeah. Oh, man. I thought you might have a little jab going for him there. Our Paul Skeens watch. By the way, Derek Shelton coached Paul Skeens for the last couple, or managed, I should say, is the word. The Mets got to him in the first inning, scored 5 against him there. So the Cy Young, that's shaky.
With an ERA of 69.4
or
something
good.
like
Yeah,
that.
it's early, though. That'll go down.
Yeah. Well, so the ABS is going to be an ongoing conversation throughout the season, no question. There is a great article by Jason Stark. I think he wrote it last fall, actually, but it really breaks down sort of how exactly the ABS works, how accurate it really is, and how it's going to impact the game moving forward. A really good read. Jason Stark, anytime he produces anything,
so entertaining.
Everybody should be reading that. And then the last note I have here, Dan, is Edwin Diaz, now the closer for the Dodgers. He has that whole da 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 la da 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 with the trumpet and everything. They have a live trumpet player now at the Dodger games doing that, and it's so cool. And the thing is it's pretty similar to Juan Dron's intro that the Twins had for him. Not the same song, but the same sort of flavor,
Sure.
But a live trumpet player, Dan, who performs well. That's hard to beat for a closer entrance, isn't it, Dan?
More live music, right? Could we have I mean, Carlos Santana would be the easy one, right, to play for anybody with the name Santana. I feel like would be kind of fun, but no, I want, who would, we'll have to think more about which Twins player could have a live musician playing for him here, but we'll have to bring that up, I think, in a future segment.
Once they figure out who the closer is.
Yeah, well, there's that part of it too, yeah.
All right, well, let's go here, Dan. Let's make our picks for the upcoming Royals series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's Picks.
As mentioned, the listeners always get to pick first. They're going to take Royce Lewis. That leaves me next. I'm going to go ahead and take Byron Buxton. And then it goes to Hogs, and Hogs is going to stick with his boy Keishel. And that just leaves you, Dan. Who are you going to go with?
Well, before I make my pick two, we need to talk about, we have a ticket giveaway for the Twins home opener coming up here next week here. So we've got 2 tickets to the Rays Twins game on Friday, April 3rd. That's a 3:10 first pitch here. And these are Section 3, Row 6, seats 11 and 12. So this is from our sponsor, Pull Tab Sports, with a collaboration with Cascade CBX Sport, who we already talked about a little bit earlier. So in order to get in on that, you need to be able to engage with us on social media. So retweet something that we've got up there, retweet something Pull Tab. You can find a lot of our stuff on Instagram. That's where you want to look for this. So look on Instagram. There'll be some postings for it. You need to kind of get engaged with those. But we're excited to be able to do more with Pull Tab Sports along this way. Hopefully be able to do some fun videos and things like that at Target Field and elsewhere. So really be looking for us. So spread the word. Again, 2 tickets here. These are nice seats, Dave. I mean, these are seats. Yeah. These are better even than the seats that you and I will sit in when we have our opportunity to watch a game together during the summer.
Yeah, right above the Twins dugout here, you get access to that fancy lounge area and whatnot. It's not free food, but it's only the people in that area get to use that lounge for the food. It's a fun time for sure.
All that is kind of a stall to make my pick here because, gosh golly, I mean, like, there's some new names here, like Josh Bell, Caratini. I mean, these are interesting fellas. I think, you know what? This sounds weird. Give me Cody Clemens. I'm going to take Cody Clemens here, a little outside the box, going down to Kansas City.
Very outside the box, Dan.
Well, when you're playing, I'm playing with house money right now, right? I've already got a lead in Puckett's Picks. I mean, I can take a couple risks here at this point in the Puckett's Picks season. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can find our Min for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, with special guest appearances from Andrew Hogs Hoganson. 3 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Minnesota Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins!